Okay. Oh, I'm fine live. Okay. What's good, Spirit Fam? This is Michael Suarez, the Dream Detective, here to talk today about being a detective and whatever else is on my mind and heart. I don't do live streams really, and I haven't been because I don't find YouTube particularly fruitful in that way, and I haven't had the energy to do editing and to post a lot or to post on here, but I am becoming part of the community, particularly with the Jeff Mara podcast. Shout out to all the Spirit fam and some of the discords and so on. So I'm following or doing this on the basis of just sort of an intuition, and that I had an intuition to start doing live streams on here. So far, it was I don't know, my computer was giving me some issues, but that said, what I want to talk about first that would just seem to make sense is, of course, being a dream detective, the dream detective, and what that means. And then there's lots of other spiritual things, particularly the issue of encouragement. But let's start with just being a dream detective and take it from there. Right. So my name is Michael Suarez. I'm the dream detective. I've written 3 books. Well, okay, I've written 2 books. First book I ever wrote was The Purpose and Power of Dreams, where I talk about how I started interpreting dreams. Then I started a series called Dream Detective, and this is volume 1. I just am working on volume 2 now. And where would we even start? Once we get started, it'll be fire, but maybe it'll take me a few minutes to get into it. But trust me on that, because the person that you're talking to has proven I have interpreted hundreds of dreams. So let's just get that part straight, right? Let's get that part out there. I've interpreted hundreds of dreams, and people recognize when we do the interpretation that the interpretation is valid. This can range from just like, wow, blowing their mind, to crying, right? Can you see that? Why, if I am interpreting for somebody, which is what I do, I feel like I'm going all over the place. So besides writing books, I also do one-on-one sessions with people, and sometimes I go on to different places and I talk with people, like during a live stream, and I'll just interpret people's dreams as they put them into the chat. And who knows, maybe we'll do that one day, because it's good proof, right? And that proof has 2 points of value. One, it is good for me, right? To say what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, to show it, right? That it ain't one of these things where it's so abstract you don't know what I'm talking about. A child can understand what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is the fact that our dreams have meaning every single time. Most of the time, and I want to decide how long I'm going to do this. Not too long, but in most cases, what dreams are emotional expressions. This is something I explain all the time. So the person has a concern. They're concerned about somebody in their family. They're concerned about a relationship. They're concerned about where they're going to live. They're concerned about how people perceive them. Those things which is an emotion or energy in motion inside the body, gets produced in them, and then the dream is processing that, and the dream is processing that in a symbolic form. So there is a direct symbolic correspondence between the emotions and the imagery or the pictures that are seen while the person is sleeping. Now, this, what we're talking about here, is a transcendent power. It's not a power that should be ignored. In other words, your dreams are, if we, how do I want to go with this? I feel like this is pretty banal, and sometimes that happens, like when I'm not communicating with a particular person, like I can let my direction go in any particular place, whereas when we are connected, we there's a definite purpose that is being accomplished, right? So, okay. So I want to answer some questions or make some things clear. And I've been talking about this for a few years now, but I want to make very clear what we're doing when we're doing dream interpretation. What we are doing is we are taking what's going on in our mind and we are explaining it clearly, because in the majority of cases, if not in all cases, we can clearly learn from our dreams. And I think I have some people on now, so that will help me get more focused. Right? So maybe let's start with an example. Okay. So a person has a dream that they are, this is one of the ones that comes up commonly. A person has a dream that they are in a maze. They have to go, they're running through a maze and they have to go to the bathroom really bad. They find these doors that they think are like a relief or for restroom, but when they open them, there's nothing there but a brick wall. Okay, let's just go over that again so we get that idea. It's a simple dream, but let's make it real clear in our mind. The person is running through a maze, right? They have to go to the bathroom really bad. They're finding doors periodically. They're hoping for a restroom. They open the door, there's only a brick wall there. Boom, nice and simple dream. Classically weird, classically obscure dream. So first, let's just address, do our dreams have meaning? Our dreams have meaning every single time. It could not be otherwise. For us to think that our dreams have meaning is to really say about life that we don't understand life and therefore life is meaningless. It is really the same thing. Think about if you were telling a kid that. The kid comes to you, they tell you their dream, and you tell them like, well, you had too much Mexican food last night. Right? Sorry, that's a little joke. But you tell them that their dream has no meaning. Can you imagine the disappointment that would come from that? Versus you begin to explain it. So let's go into that. So, principles of dream interpretation that we're about to do. Everything counts, every single detail. We're speaking a symbolic language. That symbolic language can be understood by us. We already know the language. That's the other part of it. We already know the language, but it's like our fluency is not up to speed. We're rusty in the language of symbolic imagination. But as soon as I point it out to you, it'll become very. Sometimes this is difficult, and sometimes this is easy. So we just were talking about the maze dream. So what does it mean when we say a person is in a maze? When we say a person's in a maze, that means they're in a state of confusion. See how clear that is? Now, particularly because the subconscious mind is a genius, all the symbols are very exact. So when we say that the person being in a maze, it's not just confusion, it's confusion about direction, because that's exactly what a maze represents, not knowing which way to go. The fact that the person has to go to the bathroom would mean that they're feeling urgency while they're in that state of confusion. Right? You see that? See how like using the bathroom, having to pee is like the absolute best symbol for urgency. Just like a maze is a perfect symbol for confusion about direction. Going a little further, we were saying that the person was running around, which again symbolizes also as a symbol of urgency, and opening the doors, but finding brick walls there. That would be a symbol of disappointment, right? If you have to use the bathroom really bad and you open a door hoping that there's a bathroom there and then there's nothing but a wall there, that's like a very solid in-your-face disappointment, okay? So we see that this is how the symbols work. That should be pretty clear. That's just the first part of it. But there is a second element. That second element is where we see that this applies to the life of the dreamer. This is really where the case starts to be solved, right? Where the case starts to be solved. So this person who I did this interpretation for had just lost their job and was looking desperately for a new one, and was submitting interviews and so on, but was not finding an answer, right? Or was not finding, or was ending up in disappointment. Now, this little bit that I just explained should make it clear what we're talking about, right? That this person, they were looking for a job and they felt very overwhelmed by that. So their dreaming mind put them into a maze. They felt a sense of urgency, like they had to take care of it. So their dreaming mind made it so that they had to go to the bathroom. They were putting in applications and doing interviews where it wasn't leading anymore. So when they opened the doors to go to the restroom, or a place where they would get rest or relief, it was disappointment, because that's the experience that they were having. So again, that's just one example of the basic dynamic that's going on when we're doing dreams and interpretation. This is from the many that I've done, right? Like I've done at least 500 dreams. 98%, I would say, are where the dreamer is having an emotional experience and then expressing it symbolically. And there's a whole bunch to be said about that. There is a small percentage that are spiritual dreams, where there's like a spiritual visitation or some sort of crossover that seems to go into the astral realm of the dreamer. Okay. So I don't know how much more I want to go into that. And maybe I'll actually end there. I'm not feeling like I'm in too much of a flow. And I figured if I went into flow, then, then I would just keep going. Let me do this. I don't think there's anybody in here. So, like I could answer questions and so on. So do we want to talk about anything else? I mean, I don't think so. I'm thinking, which would be odd. I don't see any people on, so if somebody is on right now watching, I apologize for the dead air. But I don't assume that anybody's really on watching at this particular point. So I want to switch over to talking just a little bit about what's going on in the world. And that's part of why I wanted to share this. Because there is this, I don't know if I want to go into this. Because this has to do with what's going on with people seeing things in the sky and UFOs and where the spirit comes in. But there is something to be said there. So let all who have ears hear, let them receive. It is not outside of ourselves that we find what we are looking for. That's the message that I've been given. It is not outside of ourselves. It is not in the skies where we will receive the answer to the question of life. It is within ourselves, finding ourselves as temples of the divine mystery that we are seeking to solve while we are in this life. This is the message I have gotten. This is the only thing I can say is what I think to be the truth. What I have perceived is that when we look up in the sky and everybody's pointing up in the sky, focusing on that, there is a distraction from human beings being made in the image and likeness of God, or human beings being the temple of God, which there is evidence for that. It's not just a scriptural injunction or a scriptural verse, though that's the case as well too, right? Genesis 1:26, let us go down and make man into our image and our likeness. But can we find that in life? Yes. Yes, we can find that in life. When we look outside and we see the trees and the sun and the moon and the stars and all these things, we see it, we find design, we find law, we find order. And then we can recognize that also in ourselves. Right? Also in ourselves. And it is unique to human beings, right? This power that we discover, that we also see out in creation, the power of, like, again, to work with law, right? And then we are given that so we can draw a flower or create a tree, plant a tree, use these laws, use this intelligence in the way that no other creature can. This is what it means to be made in the image and likeness of the divine. So we are, this is to say a lot, but we are participating in a play, and then some of us are being woken up while we are in the middle of the play. That is what it means to be born again, and what it also means to be resurrected. To be resurrected, to make it clear, is to identify with your eternal self rather than your temporal self. That's what resurrection is. That's where you experience resurrection here. That is to say, we can talk about resurrection as being in the life to come, but there is a resurrection that comes here on earth. The resurrection that comes here on earth is when a human being realizes that they are a spiritual being while they are here. Okay. Hey, Ma. I'm good.